Welcome, Nicholas, to this podcast, All That Jazz show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Yes.
It's been a while. It's been a long time for me as well. So saying usually I'm not so nervous before, but today I was more. But it's been a while, and I saw before you got a cat.
Yes, Chloe, it's here. And she's my new cat, and she's like 1 year old, and
Oh
I love
man,
her. Yeah, she's beautiful, and she behaves well. She likes
yeah,
to wake me up at 7 a.m.
like clockwork, 7 a.m.
Yeah,
Done.
yeah, she has like an internal alarm.
Aye. But I think Dr. Hawkins talked about how it's so good to have a cat around. I have a good friend and he got a cat recently and it's just been amazing for him because he's been struggling with stuff, depression here and there. But since he got a cat, I think it's been a month, and since he got a cat, it's been amazing for him.
Yeah, it's really great because you care for another being, like you have to care about giving them food, water, like pet them and give them love.
Yeah.
It gets you out of out of your selfishness, I think.
Yeah. I'm discovering that there's a lot of selfishness still in me. Almost every day I'm like there's an impatience there, there's this there and all that. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, I'm finding lots of like weird thoughts about like gain,
About
like
gay
gain,
gain? Oh,
like
okay.
gaining
So
something out of something, like
yeah.
if I do this, it's like a temptation, like right now I'm changing like my main teacher because I have a watercolor teacher now, and I had an oil painting teacher, and she's hot, and it's like, oh, she's hot, that's a gang, and
Oh,
I
gang.
have to
Okay.
surrender that.
Oh, she's really good looking.
Yeah,
I guess that's quite common in Chile.
like being good looking.
Yeah.
Oh, it depends on your taste, man, because she's like um anything but like Chilean looking.
Oh, okay. This and that's what you like.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
like
Okay.
the rarity,
The
the specialness of it. You know.
Yeah. So did you get Chloe when she was like really small?
No, no, she was like I think I got it like 2 months ago,
Okay.
and she was the cat of my girlfriend's best friend.
Hmm.
And she's moving out, so she wanted to have a new house for her pets because she's moving to a bigger house, and she won't be able to have them there because it's like in the wilderness, this house, and there are like wild dogs, etc. So they'll
Oh,
probably eat the cats. And
oh, I see. But I guess the cat is not just indoors, it's also outside.
well, in this case, she lives in an apartment, so she's full indoors, and
Okay.
she's always been indoor, but she likes to go out. She's an explorer, man. So so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
very curious cat.
I mean, I had a cat when I was at home in Slovenia, and man, having that cat around, it was like to me, it was like a mood stabilizer.
Mhm.
It was really great to have that cat around.
That's
Uh,
great, man.
yeah, man. Yeah, let's talk about letting go because you recently told me that you had some really because you've been doing it for quite a while, right?
Yeah. I started on 2017, I think.
Yeah.
On letting go, like with earnestness, like with purity of motive. Like um, I wanted to seriously let go, and at first it was for a gain, as always, like
Yeah.
letting go to have more money, letting go to have more of this, more of that. But as the time went on, I went to Sedona on 2018 to the annual Dr. Hawkins gathering. And I think Jacob Merchant. He has
Yes.
like this the Surrender House.
Yeah.
So I met some really good new friends there, and they told me like, hey, let's go to Jacob's place to surrender. And I say okay. So we went there, and it was my first like ever surrender session, like with the readings of Doc, and like the typical readings, like the technique I used the most was to surrender it as it
Yeah.
arises, etc., etc. So it was weird because I've never felt like this like state in my life, like so strong. And everyone was surrendering in this big room, and we were a big group. And they said this happens like only once a year, so we're taking like advantage of it, and we surrendered.
Hmm.
And after that, I met a friend like Wayne Markel. He's from LA, and I told him like, "Hey man, this feels weird. Like it's the first time I feel this." And he says, "Yeah, man, it feels like surrender." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right." So then I kept surrendering, and amazing stuff started to happen. Like I felt like with every aspect of surrender, like it depends on what you surrender. Like for example, if you let go and in your love relationships, um, some things come up. And if you surrender in like financial situation, other things come up like belief systems and thoughts about it, feelings, emotions. And if you stay with it, sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes something happens because Doc said you feel lighter. You feel lighter, and you feel like
Yeah.
this like renewal sensation in you, like you feel better, like lower feelings are being replaced by higher feelings. And nowadays I've been just surrendering like everything to God, like as it arises, every thought, every emotion, every feeling. And I feel called to just meditate like the whole day on this, and bypassing the mind, like surrendering every thought as it arises.
Wow.
And eventually I've discovered like the state takes like a momentum on their own. Like um I feel like in a surrender state sometimes it happens like from time to time that I feel like it's going on like without volition, like without
Yeah.
me putting effort to surrender.
Mm. And then you feel
And
because I think because I know you for quite I think a few years now, and you said that you were doing psychoanalysis at some point, Freudian psychoanalysis, right?
yeah, I was doing psychoanalysis. Now I'm doing a therapy that's derived from psychoanalysis that's specific for borderline personality treatment.
Okay. How
It's
would you compare?
psychoanalysis.
How would you compare psychoanalysis and letting go or any kind of psychotherapy?
The psychotherapies I've been in, well, like this post-traumatic stress disorder, like the one with the eyes, that's very effective and it's very quick.
Oh,
I
the
remember
one that you have to go right and left and up and down.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
I've
It's
done
like,
that
yeah,
as part of Body Talk. They do that, and other modalities have incorporated that too. It's
uh-huh.
interesting because it's effective,
Yeah, it's
right?
very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very effective. Like it has a lot of like research behind like
Oh yeah.
research behind it. Yeah, so psychoanalysis doesn't has like that much research behind it, but
Yeah.
this therapy that's called dialect no, no, it's not dialectic behavioral. It's EFTF something like transference based psychotherapy. And it has research like that shows that it's effective, but it's much longer compared to traditional psychoanalysis. You don't use like the sofa, like the main
Okay.
piece of, and it's face to face, like you have
Right.
2 sessions instead of 3 or 4 or 5. And it's based on transference, which is like transference is like um you relive an old relationship with all its patterns and behaviors, etc.
Yeah.
No,
There she is,
she
Chloe.
wants, yeah, she wants to be here. So it's based also on like borderline personality disorder. It's very like has a lot to do with aggression, you know,
Yeah.
and anger and that kind and hate. So it's based on that, on like transference and aggression.
Oh, that's a lovely cat. You can tell
Yeah.
she's young. She's like full of energy. She's like
Yeah,
on the
she's
go.
full of energy,
I think psychoanalysis gets a bad rap. People think, oh, it doesn't do anything, but it does do something. And like you said, there's no real studies on it. Like there's no studies like as far as I know, there's not much studies comparing CBT to psychoanalysis. There's not much of that, but I think in the long term, I saw a Guardian article that was written a few years ago that said in the long term that psychoanalysis was more effective than CBT, but unfortunately they don't study that much because it's like CBT is like the popular thing and psychoanalysis is like, oh, it's it's this old thing and we don't really care about it because Freud was there's something wrong with Freud. Meanwhile, all these because one time I was looking for a psychoanalysis, how would you say psychoanalysis practitioner here in
man.
Scotland, and some of them are doing that, but they're influenced with Lacan, which is like
Right.
a postmodernist crap.
Hmm.
He's in the book Intellectual Morons. Lacan.
Yeah, I read that book. Great book.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, like, there's a physicist who wrote an article about a book about the falsity in Lacan's theories. You know?
Yeah, it's just, and then they think, oh, this is so great, and yeah, they might be doing more damage by practicing, Lacanian theories on people, and it's not, you know, I think in the future we will charge them with malpractice. Anyway, anyway, let's go back to psychoanalysis and the effectiveness that you think is. Do you think it's better than CBT?
Well, I I can't say personally like CBT is worse because I've never done CBT, but
Hmm.
I met someone once that did like the full CBT therapy, and she explained to me in detail what it is about, and it's really like basics of life. It's like
Yeah.
full acceptance of situations, share your feelings, like it's like
Okay.
you know, I think it's more basic than psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis it's just really deep, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's based a lot of subjectivity, you know, like how
Yeah.
you feel inside, like what do you think, what your unconscious beliefs, etc. So it
Yeah.
takes into consideration more factors, you know. It's really excellent, I think,
Yeah.
psychoanalysis. I do one session a week because my therapist is so full, but on March I will start with 2 sessions, which is the recommended like frequency, 2 sessions a week.
Yeah.
And I've been on it like for 6 years, and it's been a great journey, man. It's like I
Awesome.
started like I couldn't watch people in the eyes. I was full of shame, and I learned to recognize like shame, fear, apathy. You know, I started to recognize all these feelings, and I started to apply the letting go technique. So it was like really like they complement each other really well.
Yeah. So did you find that by doing psychoanalysis, it actually bring up more fear sometimes in life? Because I remember Dr. Hawkins talking about it. Because to be trained as a psychoanalyst, you have to go through psychoanalysis for a few years, I think.
Yeah,
And
a full
during
psychoanalysis.
yeah, and during he said at some stage he just got afraid to drive over the bridge, under the bridge, to go into an elevator and all these stuff. He started to have phobias all over the place because the psychoanalysis was bringing these things up.
Hmm.
So did you
Yeah,
find that?
yeah, I found like it was like not a phobia, but I started really fearing people because maybe I started projecting like a lot of my aggressive, like unconscious drives on them, like the
Yeah.
killing drive, you know. And I started also to have more hate towards like the therapy itself. Like it was like some days I just the last thing I want to do was to do therapy, you know, like
Yeah, okay.
it's like a great resistance to uncover like or discover like some things in you that you don't want to watch, you know, you don't want to recognize.
Right, right. But you
Yeah.
by your somebody was paying for you, so it wasn't that hard. Because I think in a lot of cases, if nobody was paying for them, they would not go, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because I personally I can't afford it. Like it's too expensive. It's like $100 for a session.
Okay.
So, you know, it's really expensive. And my father who has money and my mother who also has money, and they love me a lot.
A good
They're
karma,
paying for
man.
my therapy.
Good
Yeah,
karma.
good karma. Yeah, definitely.
Good parents karma. That's it.
Yeah. Maybe I was a good parent before in another lifetime, you know, like yeah.
Yeah. So, like, can you do these things also, like online? I guess it's not as effective as sitting there with a psychoanalyst right there.
Yeah, it's different, but during the pandemic I was doing like online sessions like for I still do online until like I think on March I will be in person again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the therapist is old. He's wise, very wise, but old. And maybe he's afraid of catching something, you know. He also is a vector. You know what? Like, I don't know if that's the right word in English, but he's a vector. Like, if he met someone that's sick, and he will make sick a lot of people because he sees like eight, nine persons the same day for
Mm-hmm.
treatment. So yeah, he takes care about that. But I personally don't care. But yeah, we'll. It's a bit different, but it still works. It still works.
Yeah. Well, there was you mentioned that there was a big period here and all around the world where people were having math. I
You
don't know.
still have one.
Yeah, I just happened to have. I was cleaning. I was looking for the lighter earlier,
Uh-huh.
and I found. I found it there. Yes. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but we went through a big stage where everybody was wearing it, and now there was a lady that just told me 2 months ago, there's no COVID anymore. She said. I don't know, man. There is COVID. It's just that we don't care about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think well my take on it is we should all have act with more courage. Like Florida Ron DeSantis on Florida.
Oh man, that's a great governor right there, Ron
Yeah,
DeSantis.
that for me it's like the greatest governor in America right now. The guy was like, you can do everything and just use masks, I think in hospitals or something like that. And they didn't get more cases than the other states.
Yeah.
There were, yeah, it was great. I think we should have all acted with more courage, you know, like you could see like the fear of death governing like the behavior of everyone.
Yeah, it was crazy. I had early on in March 2020, I was saying, I think there was a post I posted on Facebook saying, why don't we just take care of ourselves, take supplements, and to those that are afraid, just stay inside. And I was attacked by some people on the left. Somebody in private told me that in chat, messenger, he told me that I was a sociopath, and and now looking and now looking back, I think I was right, that
Uh,
but the hysteria, it's like I haven't read that book, but there's a book that Dr. Hawkins recommends, The Madness of Crowds, and I
mhm.
think that book, the concept, like the crowd just go wherever most people go, applies to what happened there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because it wouldn't happen now. Do you think it would? I think people wouldn't care. They just don't care
Yeah.
anymore.
My take is I think it would happen again. Like if they say like there's a new virus and it's really dangerous, and I think mass media would make it happen again.
Yeah, I guess. I heard
So
somewhere
like,
recently that if you tell a lie to 14 times to a kid, he'll believe it, but for adult, it's like 8 times.
all right, yeah, that's probable. Also,
I don't know if
yeah.
that's true because I would think a child would be more programmable. Maybe it depends on the age. Depends what age the kid is. Maybe it's more than 7.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, but I know you studied psychology for a while. Do you still study psychology?
Yeah, yeah. I'm still studying. Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to become like a psychoanalyst or what's your dream?
My dream right now is to do psychoanalysis based therapy. Because it's shorter. You need to study like only 2 years more.
Hmm.
To do that, because psychoanalysis is like 7 8 years of studying.
Yeah,
Besides the 5 years of like
uni.
psychology, the general,
Oh,
yeah, uni. No, it's like another career with it's like a doctorate. It's really long years of studying.
wow. No, and that makes sense now why there's not many psychoanalysts around because it takes so
Yeah,
long. And
takes long.
plus it's not popular. I know in France for some reason in France it's very popular, although Lacan was French, so there must be a lot of BS psychoanalysis in France. I don't know.
Yeah, I have like 110 more or less like classmates, and from them I know one who wants to become a psychoanalyst. Just one.
Just one.
Yeah. So it maybe it's like less than 1% of like the whole course, like the whole class.
Well, yeah, so what do the majority of people want to become a psychologist or something or
Yeah, maybe, or like organizational, like companies, like working for like the work related, like
okay.
doing I don't know the name in English, but like management, like management of people, and
Yeah.
changing, etc. Yeah, because that's where like the money is. It's good money and steady job,
Yeah.
and clinical work. It's a bit harder. You have to get the patients, and you can win more, but like the patients are hard to get sometimes, and some leave, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's harder. I don't know. Everything seems to more complex about being that field because I don't know if you know about what happened to Jordan Peterson because he's speaking out and now they wanna take away his license
Hmm.
and that seems like I don't know how it is in Chile, but it seems like the West is in free fall regarding psychology or anything else really.
Yeah, well, if you look like at the main like governments of Latin America, like Boric in Chile, he was like a student who he was an activist. He was like the leader of a movement, and he studied law, but he never finished. And in fact, like the final test, he didn't approve it like 2 times. So he doesn't have a career. He's just an activist,
Yeah.
zero preparation. In Colombia, you have like this guy was a former military, like not military, but terrorist, you know?
Former terrorist, he's a prime minister.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like president, In Argentina, you have Kirchner, and they have stole, like Christina Kirchner right now is facing like 6 years of jail because of he stole so much money while in government that they finally condemned her. And you have in Peru, you had like Castillo, who was like also an activist and a professor, like really far left. And if you see like the governments of every country here in Latin America, Lula in Brazil, it's
A,
everyone.
f-
It's really far left.
a
Everyone is
former
really far left.
criminal, right? Well, the Supreme Court forgave him now, but for the Supreme Court is on his side, so they forgave their own basically, or pardoned him or something, right?
I don't know the story like with details, but I know he was like in jail for corruption. Like
Yeah, well, there's a very heated situation right now because they're I saw recently that they're the supporters of Bolsonaro are charging the government buildings and getting in there. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of sympathize with them, but I mean, empathize maybe it's a better word, but I don't know if charging a building and stuff like that is the best. But then again, what can you do when you feel like there's corruption, you know?
yeah. For example, here in Chile, Boric, this guy, you if you're president, you can pardon someone's crime,
Yeah.
or if he was like I don't know, like misjudged or justice wasn't done. But the Supreme Court like said these guys are criminals and they were in jail. Like these were all like political activists who were like throwing stones and burning buildings, etc. And they had like a really long, especially one of them had a really long history of like crimes, and Boric gave pardon to 10 of them. and it's like he's like saying, okay, you can do whatever you want, you can burn buildings, you can do all this stuff in name of like politics, and we will like grant you a pardon. So he has his approval right now is in an all-time low. It's at 30%, like
Wow.
67% disapprove, like the majority disapprove his decision to pardon people. And like everyone's like, this guy is like a noob in government.
Of course, I mean, we both knew that, right? But they still got him in, right? Because the far left is in popular in vogue right now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's stupid, they're like putting all this gender ideology in schools, in all kind of places, like 50-50
Oh
in
yeah. I
so
mean, they might actually the YouTube might take this video down, but I don't care. You talking about LGBTQ, the propaganda that's all around the West, and I guess in Latin America as well now.
yeah, absolutely. Like they're gathering like strength, and they're creating like a big movement here in Chile. Like it's it's kind of happening. It's like what happened in America, it's happening here. Like
Yeah.
again. Yeah. It's like
Okay.
everything that happens in the West, like in the big countries of the West, it's also happens here in Chile, like
Yeah.
LGBT, Marxism. In fact, the news, it was fun because, like how moral relativism makes an apology of pedophiles.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were two theses of philosopher students of the main university here, Universidad de Chile, and they were making apology of pedophilia, and they 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 actually graduated with thesis on pedophilia, like saying pedophilia was right,
Or
like relativizing.
they were not just saying it's justifiable, but they were saying, yeah, it's okay.
It's
Pedophilia
a
is
point.
okay.
Yeah, it's like we should love children, why not? Like, and express it like sexually.
Wow.
It was like a big, and now of course like government is indignant about it, and everyone is indignant about it. But this happened like in 2016 and 2020, I think, like this thesis, and just now they came to the public, like,
You're right. But man, I think it's like the maybe the world consciousness is getting ready to see all this shit that's been happening. And I had some friends that saying that actually the worldwide consciousness went down, but I don't know. I hope it didn't go below integrity. And the terms I'm using now is for those of you who don't know, it's from Dr. David R. Hawkins' work, and it's a map of consciousness where 200 is integrity. So if it's above it, and the world was at about 205 for since the 1980s. And what we're saying now is that a friend of mine said that he might be below 200 now, but I don't know about that because I think the Africa and majority of Asia is going up, like they improving, while the West is like every year is getting worse, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Like, because like where would you go right now? Like before it used to be no brainer America, you go there, but now you, I mean, except for Florida, Wyoming, and a few other states, Canada's Trudeau is acting like a dictator wannabe, prosecuting Jordan Peterson, prosecuting the truck drivers for disagreeing with
Yeah,
and taking their money away, basically freezing their bank accounts.
yeah, freezing the bank accounts. Yeah,
Then you have Australia, the camps for people that weren't vaccinated, or people no the camps for everybody that came into the country like 14 days and inhumane conditions. Um, I just don't know like where in the West is good now. This seems nowhere in the West that I would really want to move.
yeah. And I don't have like that many knowledge of like the East. I know China is communist, you know. I wouldn't move to China
Yeah.
or to North Korea, but South Korea seem integrous, man. South Korea seem integrous.
I think South
I know
Korea,
very little, but South Korea, yeah, it looks integrous.
Singapore, that looks integrous.
Singapore, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
maybe even those Arab countries like Qatar, for example, now that the World Cup was there,
Uh-huh.
they have very strict laws, but at the same time, I think like people, it's like on one side, like the upside, it's like they're traditional, like they respect family, etc. On the
Mm-hmm.
downside, like they treat women really bad and kids. But I think they might with evolution, they might achieve a nice equilibrium. Maybe sometime. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I mean, as long as the radical element of Islam doesn't prevail, Islam
Yeah,
has an advantage over the West, where this is another. I've been talking to somebody else about this just the other day, that Christianity has been subverted by the wokeness and the LGBTQ and stuff like that. A lot of especially the non-denominational, the Protestant branches of Christianity have been corrupted, a lot of them by radicals. And the Biden administration actually paid a drag queen to sing and dance in a church. I don't know what kind of church it was, but I was just a taxpayer money paying for that, you know?
that's horrible, man.
Like
I mean, I don't have anything against drag queens, but why do you mix that with like religion and
bro, yeah, and further than that, they also like a lot of the schools teach sex education from with drag queens, not sex education, but talk about sex basically, and be open about it, and have books, explicit books in their libraries, and it seems like that's becoming more and more practice, especially in the United States and Canada. These things
yeah,
are.
they went on full Marcuse, man. Marcuse said like the the primary purpose of life is to have sex and enjoy sex, like
Oh yeah, because that was his that was coming from his own level of consciousness, his own selfishness. Therefore, everybody else should be the same. Otherwise, it makes me uncomfortable.
right. It offends me.
Yeah. the the whole Catholic and all the Calvinists and all the people that are pure, they just offend me. They're oppressed. They are oppressed, actually.
They're oppressors, yeah.
and there's this is quite controversial, maybe among the feminists, but there's some psychological research that says the pair bonding that happens when a woman has sex, so it decreases from the first partner, the second partner, the third partner. It goes way down, apparently.
Hmm.
And so what happens is woman will make the argument that if I say that because apparently there's statistics that marriage, if a woman has less sexual partners, that the marriage lasts longer, the success
Hmm.
rate is higher. But then I saw some woman on YouTube saying that this means that these women don't know, or they're happy because they don't know any better or something. So it's like discrediting the happy woman, because if they're happy, it doesn't mean anything because they're dumb or something. Is
Well, Dr. Hawkins said like promiscuity was low self-esteem and low self-confidence, you know?
he said that? Oh, I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
he wrote that. Yeah, he wrote it. You know, like promiscuity is just low self-esteem, you know, and I mean, I've been there, and you know, now I'm in a relationship, and it's so different, you know, it's so much more civilized to be in a relationship. You have to actually grow and stop behaving like a kid, you know? It's like you have to communicate, don't allow non-integrity, put healthy boundaries, respect your partner, love your partner, care about them,
Yeah.
about her and kids, you know, it's family, it's just like what once was like the basis of civilization, you know, like family, love, kids, you know, it's
Yeah, that's what we're losing in the West.
yep.
I saw some stat that by year 2030, 40% or 45% of women between 18 and 20 and 30 will be single and without a child in the West. Yeah, I think United States maybe.
Mhm. Wow.
That's indicative of where we are as a culture, maybe.
Yeah. And you have like the cultural like factors, but you know, like there are also the biological ones. Every society that has more health, education, wealth, they tend to have less kids also. Like Netherlands, I think the women there are having their first child at 32.
Wow.
So yeah, it's different in Africa. Like in the worst parts of Africa, they're having like 6 children, many of them dying. Some of them are born with AIDS,
Yeah.
but the lower the health conditions, the wealth and like education, the more the kids. That's why also if you can see it in a country, like
Mm-hmm.
people with less education have more childs, you
Yeah.
know, have more children, and they I don't know why, but they have so much children, like 6 children, big families, and it's like they have to start working like at 8 or 10 years old. You know, it's horrible, but
Yeah.
it's it's different, you know, and educated people like in Europe now, well, Europe is more of an Arab continent right now, but um
Oh, Europe is more of an Arab continent, you said?
yeah, like Muslim continent right now.
Not yet, but it's becoming more and more and more. Yes. They're
Yeah, like Germany, I heard like Germany has like 14 millions like Turkish people living there
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
with their own.
That's from before. But now they have a lot of people from Afghanistan and no, not Syria mostly. I think in 2015 they took like almost like a million, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe more in 1 year.
Wow. Wow.
So you can imagine. And still the UK is taking in a lot. So um I saw that there's a quote by Aristotle that or some I think it was Aristotle that that foreigners to paraphrase, that foreigners are easier to control in a country, and domestic people is harder to control or something. And I think that's because also you have competing values as well, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. Like immigration is fine, but how much is okay? Like, is 5% of your whole population okay? Are you taking, let's say United States, because it's a huge country, 320 million people or so. So how many
Mhm.
should they take a year? Like, should they take a million? Should they take 3 million or 30 million? And then in a few decades, if you do that, it will be unrecognizable country. Like, and all these
Exactly.
people that are advocating for this, they wouldn't want those immigrants to live in their neighborhood, to be their neighbor, probably. you know.
Yeah, because usually I don't have anything against immigrants, and I also know like that everyone's value is infinite, like every person worth is infinite.
Yeah.
It's it's but at the same time, the people migrating, it's like the people with less qualifications to live there, like they go like for a big country like the US, and they have job opportunities and everything, but they don't really like are they aren't at the top, like they aren't
Yeah.
like the advancement of society. Most of them, I would say, and that happens in many parts of the world. Like here in Chile, we received like I don't know if it was 1.5 million. I don't know. I don't remember the number, but Haitians, like there were like 500 Haitians coming every day here in Chile for in Bachelet's corner.
500 people.
Yeah, from Haiti. Haiti, it's like
Oh, Haiti, right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, from Haiti, and Haiti, it's like really low consciousness in a country with really low consciousness, and some of them like were like really like they were told they were going to a paradise because Chile was okay those years, but they couldn't find jobs or rents, etc. So they just took back and get away from here.
Really? Then they went back.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think that's what a lot of people when they go from Middle East, I think Germany and or UK, that's like the top destination, that like paradise. But
Hmm.
then I don't know if it's really paradise for them when they get here. Um, but some of them are housed in hotels, really expensive hotels sometimes. So yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. Meanwhile, you have people in UK that are also poor and can't afford rent sometimes. And meanwhile, you're putting these people in a hotel and paying all the costs, and they're not even British. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's weird, man. It's weird. Yeah, we're living weird times.
We do. But I think, I think, overall humanity is progressing, even though it doesn't seem like that. Do you think it's progressing, or you think it's going down?
I think the West is definitely going down with all this programming and mass media hysteria.
Yeah,
Um, but overall, I think we're getting ahead because of the few that are like non-controllable, like from neutrality and up, like 250 and up.
yeah,
Like people that can be easily controlled or coerced. Like they think for themselves, like the cultural creatives in the 300. Then you have
yeah.
people in reason, like Kevin. Like
Yeah.
in the 490s, like they're counterbalancing like the negativity of hundreds of thousands. And then you have like many dog students. I feel like many dog students are in the 500s. Some of them must be in the high 500s. Maybe it's one or two are in the 600
You think
overall.
so?
Like of
Mm.
dog students, I don't know, but in the whole world there must be. I think
Maybe
at
there's
least
one somewhere.
yeah, maybe like but definitely five you can see people in the 500s in 12 steps groups like
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. 12-step groups are amazing for people to advance in consciousness. They're amazing,
absolutely.
and they don't
Yeah,
cost anything.
yeah, and you have like people like saying really simple things like Bill Wilson said like hope for the best of people and never fear for the worst.
Hmm.
That's
Hope
really
for the
like
best,
wow.
no.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you. I think if you follow that like to the ultimate consequences, you will start seeing like the divinity of everyone. You know, like if you always see the best, see the best, see the best, hope to see the best. You know, like you're almost like asking God to reveal like the true nature of everyone. You know.
Hmm. I guess you know Eric Hoffer, right?
No, I'm not a fan, but mainly because I couldn't find his text when I was reading like really hard.
You found it really hard, his text.
No, 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 not the text, but I couldn't find his text.
Oh, you can find the books.
Yeah, the books.
Ah, okay. Maybe I need to send you some. But no, there's also interviews of him as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Oh, that's
discovered
cool.
interviews on YouTube. I will send you later. Or maybe I'll put it down in the description so people can see Eric Hoffer. Dr. Hawkins calibrated him at 505, and
Mhm.
there's a quote to paraphrase that you don't really love humanity when you expect too much from it. And
You
that's
don't.
really good because if you expect too much, you're always judging, and then you don't
Yeah.
love if you're always judging. Um, and this is what the woke ideology makes a mistake. It has is very severe on judgment, but it has no mercy, unlike Christianity. So if
Mm.
you do something wrong, you're canceled. We don't want to see you ever again. Go away. We don't want to see you. You have no say anymore, you know, and people go away and but there's no mercy, there's no redemption, you know, there's no, oh, I've changed, I've become a new person. There's none of that. And I think we need that, more of that, because wokeness is very much, you know, on judgment, severe and all that.
Yeah, taking things out of context. You know.
Yeah, if they really want, like they tried to cancel Joe Rogan because he said the N-word a couple times, but they just spliced it up and put a compilation of Joe Rogan like that. And I mean, I think Joe is a good guy. I mean, he's not, you know, he's not enlightened. He's not a saint. I mean, he's, you know, his interest is MMA fighting, so he's not, you know, he's a regular guy. But I mean, regular guy with, you know, millions of viewers,
Uh-huh.
but. He don't deserve to be canceled, you know?
Yeah. No. I mean, they even canceled Gandhi. I think as they took out
Gandhi?
of. Yeah.
They try to cancel
No.
Gandhi?
Yeah, because I think I don't know if you it was something about slavery. I don't remember well the story, but they wanted to took out one of his statues out of one city, you know.
Oh yeah,
It's ridiculous.
I
It's
remember when I was
ridiculous.
in college and somebody said that Gandhi was a racist or something, or he said something racist, and therefore, because he said something problematic that was I don't know, they're like, oh, we should just cancel him or something. That's the implication. Like, are you?
Yeah, I know. It's stupid, man. It's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. So let's go back to promiscuity and porn addiction, because that's, I know that was the porn thing was also in my life now, but the grace of God, I've been free for a couple months and it's been wonderful, really. But I always had relapses, but I can't, you know, I can't do it by myself. It's like with God's help, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's porn. I started really early, like when I was 13 or 14 years old. You know, I had a
Mhm.
computer since I was 5, and I was very like a natural to technology. And I remember searching like sex in like Google and
Yeah.
watching all this kind of stuff and
Yeah.
pictures. And I had this modem, you know, modem when you had to wait for the image to download.
Yeah, the old loud one when they like made the noise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those noisy stuff.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And you had to wait, and you were like all excited waiting for the image. Oh man, that was like terrific, in a sense, but horrific in another. And I gradually started using more and more as I grew up. And when I was like 20, I was a heavy user. You know, I was studying medicine, and I would study like just was what was necessary, and after that it was all like lost. You know, lost time for me. And as I grew older, like 22, 23, I started drinking heavily and visiting whores and all that kind of stuff. And it was really like,
Listening to what? Oh,
no,
visiting.
visiting whores, escorts, like you paying for sex. and
Yeah.
and I started like really getting like, I was really twisted. And there came a point where I stole some money to go to a whorehouse, you know,
Yeah.
and they stole from me more than I had. So that was the time I like hit it bottom, and I left like everything with the help of God, like through spiritual communities, and with the help of God, I was free like from everything for like 5 years. And then I acted out like my impulses for a while, and now I'm free again. But I feel like the Buddha said like the first step to enlightenment is to detach from the senses, like.
Mm-hmm.
And Nisargadatta said, like, someone who is not detached from the senses is not qualified for enlightenment, you know, because it's like the first step, like detached from food, detached from sex, detached from money. And I feel like nowadays, like, it's so easy to act out on sexual impulses, like
Yeah.
l- people is like, don't giving, they're not giving like any, like, they don't have a moral compass, because like Christian churches isn't like ruling anymore. So everyone is just having sex with anyone and hooking up and everywhere. And you can have sex with strangers and it's okay. You can watch porn. It's cool. It's like mature. You're sexually liberal. And
Yeah.
it has all this kind of like glamour in it. Like it's okay. And I think nowadays it's hard never to become a sober person, like in the sexual arena.
It's hard to become a sober person once you've yeah. I
Yeah.
think but even if you grow up in a strict Catholic environment, like there I knew this person, she was amazing, this girl that she had a really strict Catholic mother, and she turned out to be amazing. But her sister, was the opposite. She was the rebel, and she went into drugs and a lot of guys and all that. So, because it's hard to, because you have one thing, which is the parent, but then you have your peers, and your peers when you're young, your friends, they control. I mean, not control, but they influence a lot of what you think and what you think is acceptable. So if you're not
Exactly.
lucky in the sense of having good friends, and because what your friends are gonna do, you're likely to do as well. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about going into a bad crowd. And that's church. If you go to church, even if it's there's a lot of old people there, it's better to be in holy company than, or better to go to a 12-step meeting than to. Yeah, it's easy to say, but then sometimes people have to experience the loads. There's no other way. You
Yeah.
can't control them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Hawkins said like 5% of what happens to you is parental upbringing, like your father and mother
Okay.
upbringing. Another 5% is peer upbringing, like what your peers say and do.
Okay.
And 90% is karma, like,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. It's like also karma, I think it's huge, like what you did in your past lifetimes, and yeah, like your propensities, etc.
Oh, interesting. That's why, because the path of Mahatma Gandhi was well, he called it by a different name, but you could say it was like karma yoga. I think Dr. Hawkins said it was like that, which is like doing good for the world but expecting nothing in return,
Hmm.
and that diminishes the bad karma, because that's a
Right.
really high practice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not. A lot of times I'm not at that level yet where I would be giving and because if you're not coming from a good place, I think if you're giving and you don't feel the goodness in your heart, then you're actually hurting yourself, and you're like, uh, I, am I wrong about this?
Yeah, I think you're right because like the Bhagavad Gita talks about like, for example, meditation. If you do meditation out of pure devotion, like that's sattvic, like 500 and up.
Yeah.
If you do meditation for a gain, that's rajasic, which is from the 200 to the 499s,
Okay.
And
So
I don't
there's
know.
usefulness in it, though. There's
Yeah,
usefulness.
yeah, it's still, but I
Okay.
think it's maybe like something to purify when you want to gain, like when you
Yeah.
do something. It's hard to do things, all things like out of devotion. It's really hard, I think.
Yeah, but if you did that, even if you did a regular job, if you're a cleaner somewhere, but you did it out of devotion, I guess it's easier if you're a cleaner in a cathedral to do it out of devotion. But but to treat
Yeah.
any workplace as to do it out of devotion. What I used to do sometimes to trick myself into making work easier is to pretend that I'm working for family.
Oh,
And
nice.
and that would make it easier to work, less resistance, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, because in a broad view, everything is family,
Yeah, I agree.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, last but not least, it's very important, and I know this was very important in your path before, is the great books of the Western world and reading that stuff. Because I know I really respected I really respect how much you read and the devotion is because it's not just it didn't do it out of obligation. I think it was like out of devotion and the faith of into Doc's word that this is a good way, faith and reason. So you're reading a lot, and what's your what was your takeaway from all that reading?
Well, I would say mm, reason is like mathematics. It's a very strict discipline. Like
Mm,
you have to follow the rules of logic, and you have to you just can't get away with like sentiment behind words, like emotionality, basic emotionality. You have to like construct an argument and put facts behind it. And if you don't do that, you don't have any validity. It's like the first thing I get from that is reason is strict. It's also difficult. It's um it's a great path. Like, if you take a career in science or mathematics, like STEM, I think you'll have a great life if you pursue through like science or mathematics. It's
yeah.
like definitely great.
Don't
The
study
other part
gender
was,
studies. Don't study gender
no, don't study gender.
studies.
Please, please, no. Don't do that. Don't waste your money.
Don't
Don't
waste your
waste your
time,
money.
money, and your soul on studying that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you will lose your soul. That's much more important. And you will, it's like studying critical race theory. It's like, oh man, it's based on envy, on social justice. Like that stuff. It's like, it's horrible. It's like narcissism covered with pseudo reason. Like
Yeah.
pseudo reason.
So do you think that studying the great books of the Western world basically provides you with kind of defense against the modern woke teachings that are everywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. There was I remember reading this book about logic, from Sister Miriam Joseph, who was a nun who teach it like in, I think it was in St. John College. I don't know, I don't remember the name of the college, but she taught logic. And I remember reading this book and doing the exercises in my mind. And after that, I opened Instagram and I started reading like all this stuff. And like a vast majority of the stuff I read was full of like fallacies. It like straight up fallacies. Like nothing was following anything, or like it was just fallacy. And it like opened my eyes to see like the how warped the mind can become, you know.
Mm. What
It's
what
so
was her
propense
name?
to falsehood.
Yeah,
Sister Miriam Joseph.
Miriam Joseph.
Yeah, she has a book called the Trivium. The Trivium, you know, the Trivium is logic, rhetoric, and I don't remember the third one, but it's like the basis, you know.
Mm.
Grammar, rhetoric, and logic. You know, like those three sciences that teach you how to write, how to speak, how to listen,
Yeah.
and you know, like then you have the Quadrivium, which is like geometry, astronomy,
Hi.
and all that kind of stuff. Like you learn
You
how to think.
you ever read Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book?
Of course, I read most of the books by Mortimer Adler. He's like one of my heroes, intellectual heroes.
He was a giant, that guy. Really,
He
really,
was a
really
giant.
great guy.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can't believe someone read that much in like so few time in one lifetime. It's like wow.
And he also wrote a lot of books too.
Yeah, he wrote like I don't know. I've read like he has like 20, 30 books. I don't know. Like
Wow. Like
yeah.
Thomas Sowell, he has a lot of books too. Oh, don't get me
Oh, and
started on
some of his
Thomas
books
Sowell.
are like really like many
Thick.
pages. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Really great book. And
Yeah.
that guy is brilliant. That guy is brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And by the way, Thomas Sowell really loves Eric Hoffer as well, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate that Eric Hoffer is not more well known nowadays.
Mm.
But yeah. Let's see. I think we're gonna draw this to a close. Do you have anything else you would like to say before we close?
Yeah, if anyone is interested in the great books, I would say there was a dog quote that paraphrasing said something like, when you read out of when you like feed the intellect for a game, like everyone wants to gain something. It's very rajasic, you know, like it's
Raja meaning
disorderly.
the second of Hindu. There's only three, right? Raja,
Yeah,
Tamas, and
rajasic. Yeah, it's gunas, like the gunas. Yeah, exactly. It's like the ambition and achievement, etc. But if you read out of a sattvic, you know, like purpose, like reading to search for the truth, it's much more like fulfilling, you know, like
mm,
searching for the truth.
oh wow, I get that. Okay. That makes so much sense, man. That makes so much because your intention will color everything. It's kind of like
Exactly.
it's kind of like I think Doc talked about this people that play sports, professional athletes, and that do for love of the game, they do some things that they would never do for money. Like they will play through injuries, they will play through being fatigued, tired, and a normal job, they would never do that. But out
Mhm.
of the love for the game, they do that. Um,
Mhm.
and then I think he said people that do it for the love of country, that play for the country, they have a or something like that. They do it out of devotion. They have an advantage, like a split second advantage.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
I don't remember the number, but the number was like 0.10, something like that,
Yeah,
seconds in
yeah,
a race.
which can make a huge difference if you're like running 100 meters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Nico, we've come to the end. Thank you so much for joining this podcast. I really enjoyed it.
And me too. Thank you for having me, and all the best for all of you. And for you, Matt, yes, of course.
Thank you very much. God bless everybody. Take
Take care,
care.
friend.